Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and I just hit Legend and Rank 3 in the entire world on the Go Battle League leaderboards with a very unexpected Pokemon, Shadow MIGHTYENA. Now, Shadow MIGHTYENA is not ranked particularly highly, but it is very good as a lead as a part of an XAB style strategy. This is a strategy that has honestly really been popularized by a lot of Japanese battlers, as XAB relies on having a powerful core in the back that cover each other's weaknesses that really want switch advantage. Therefore, the X, the lead Pokemon, needs to be really good at forcing alignment, and that's where Shadow MIGHTYENA enters the picture. Shadow MIGHTYENA with Sucker Punch already outputs incredible damage. Pair that up with Poison Fang, an ability to reduce the opponent's defense, and Shadow MIGHTYENA is very good at forcing switch advantage. In the back, I'm running a very standard basic meta core of Gastrodon and Dedenne, as Dedenne can beat the flyers and Gastrodon can beat the slappers that Dedenne doesn't want to face. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's take a look at my climb to Legend in Season 24 of Pokemon Go Battle League. Hopping into the first match, picking up a winning lead Shadow MIGHTYENA into Corviknight. Having a payback resist is basically how most Pokemon are able to defeat Corviknight if Corviknight is hitting them for neutral. And that's that without payback, they're forced to go for Air Cutter. Air Cutter is very spammy, but it's a very inefficient attack. So MIGHTYENA gets to shake off the Air Cutter, return fire with the Crunch, and deal big damage. That defense drop isn't going to impact things too much. They're going to land that Air Cutter, in comes Feraligatr. I thought I could get the Poison Fang, but unfortunately I could not. So a bit of a misplay on my part, as I should have just switched into the Dedenne. But either way, the good news is I was able to force my opponent out, and therefore I now have switch advantage. Dedenne is going to do a great job at handling Feraligatr. The Shadow Claws do add up quite a bit, but I can continually buff up my defense more and more and more. Hydro Cannon is going to be shielded. They're going to switch. In the back is Carbink. I banked 2 parabolic charges, and at this point, this game is over. As with switch advantage, my backline just absolutely dominates this endgame. Carbink is going to connect with the Moonblast, that's some hard-hitting damage, but now I can very comfortably farm up and fire off the Water Pulse just shy of 100 energy. Water Pulse is going to land, that's going to set up a big farm down for the Gastrodon. In comes Corviknight. Corviknight cannot make a move. In comes Feraligatr, and it's just all over. I have 4 charge attacks banked. They only have 1 shield. They're going to let it through, and that's a good game. Hopping into the next match, picking up a great lead, Shadow MIGHTYENA into Feraligatr. Feraligatr is very, very strong right now, and that's one of the reasons why having a team that is ABA strong to it can be a pretty big benefit. Hydro Cannon does get shielded, my opponent choosing to stay in this matchup, so I'm going to go for the CMP tie with the Crunch to their second Hydro. Crunch does get shielded. I was worried about a Poison Fang barely not knocking out, so that's why I did end up full sending. My opponent now going to save switch into Empoleon. Empoleon's going to take big damage from this Crunch. So they have a difficult choice to make. They will put up the shield, and now I bring out Dedenne. Dedenne, more than happy to take a Hydro Cannon, as Hydro Cannon will do quite a bit of damage. I intentionally overfarmed so that I would be able to switch in the Dedenne and get to the Parabolic before their second Hydro, as that is an IV-dependent CMP tie. In the back is Diggersby. My opponent tries for a catch. In comes Feraligatr. Oh, I try for the full farm down, but Feraligatr survives on 1 HP. But honestly, this is still going to work out. I have a very healthy Gastrodon, and they're going to have a Diggersby. Now, if they get a Scorching Sands debuff, things could get a little bit uncomfortable. It's only a 10% chance. Luckily, no Scorching Sands debuff comes through, and I will get to my Water Pulse. This Water Pulse is going to be dealing devastating damage to that Diggersby. Diggersby throws, and the moment they throw this, I know that I'm in a winning position, because they don't have a lot of residual energy. So I can switch into the MIGHTYENA. They realize there's just no path forward. There's too much fast move pressure. MIGHTYENA, Crunch, KOs the Diggersby, and we move to 2-0 in the set. Great lead in the next match, Shadow MIGHTYENA into Furret. One of the other reasons why I think Shadow MIGHTYENA is really good in this XAB style strategy is there's a lot of XABs that feature Furret and Dusknoir leads, and MIGHTYENA just beats both Furret and Dusknoir. Here, I'm always going to full send to try and punish a no-shield. I get the no-shield, taking down that Furret, and when Gastrodon comes in, the high-rank Shadow MIGHTYENA pays off 0-14-15 as I survive the Mud Slap and get to the Crunch. I do get a defense drop, so a bit of good luck goes my way. I'm always going to be no-shielding this, as I know that I can survive the Water Pulse. In the back is Shadow Talonflame, and now it's time for Dedenne. Dedenne does take massive damage from these Incinerates. Parabolic Charge will be able to boost up my defense, but I realized the only way I lose this game is if I shield the Dedenne. I still have a pretty healthy Gastrodon, and my Gastrodon will be able to output some pretty nice pressure onto the Talonflame. So it all comes down to this: Gastrodon versus the world. My opponent goes for the Flame Charge. They're just looking for the fast move damage. I fire off the Body Slam. Body Slam does get shielded. Body Slam number 2 will take the knockout. And importantly, that Incinerate will not land. So Body Slam picks up the KO. In comes Gastrodon. And the fact that I have the rank 1 Gastrodon pays off as I farm down and take the win. Great lead in the next match as I end up leading Mightyena into Scizor. The Mightyena matchup into Scizor is so favorable that Mightyena can just shield once, fully Sucker Punch down, and exit with a ton of loaded energy. But a Goodra save swap genuinely poses problems, because Goodra, it's very, very spammy, and if they get the shield calls right on the play rough like they did on the first, then things could get uncomfortable. I can survive 2 Aqua Tails, but the problem is they're going to have a third. This is going to pressure a shield from the Dedenne. The good news is I'm pretty low, so that's going to limit the farm that the Scizor gets, but even so, I do want to try and play aggressively, as Scizor farm is very, very scary for this entire team. So I aggressively pivot back into Mightyena. I get to the crunch, they have to shield this or they will get knocked out, so I go for what I think is a pretty safe Poison Fang, but they call the bait, out comes Azumarill, and suddenly, things are not looking so clear. Azumarill will take big damage from the super effective Poison Fang. Poison Fang does get shielded. Mightyena just cannot get Poison Fang number 2, and now I could be in trouble. I send in Dedenne because the threat of a Parabolic will pressure their shield. I can never shield, however, because if I shield, then I'm just going to lose with the Gastrodon. I bring in the Gastrodon, and I get 1-turn bring in. I haven't had 1-turn bring in a while, but I have it at the worst time. I get hit with a Hydro Pump, things going from bad to worse. My opponent switches in Scizor, and I believe here they should have had me beat. If they stay in with the Azumarill, then they could have forced the shield and comboed, but instead they switch, and in doing so, that actually cost them the game. So this is a scenario where if I didn't 1-turn lag, then I could have actually knocked them out, but unfortunately because I did, I was in a losing position, but they tried to go for a catch, and it ends up costing them, as Water Pulse plus Body Slam takes the KO. Now for the 5-0 set, Mightyena into Corviknight. We've seen this lead, and it plays out pretty nicely for the Mightyena. Opponent is going to go for the Air Cutter. They overfarm quite a bit, and Air Cutter is going to connect onto the Mightyena. Here, I like to overfarm as well. I want to try and throw before they get their second Air Cutter to put shield pressure on the Corviknight or get some big damage. I get a second Crunch debuff, so the luck definitely with my Mightyena so far. I'm going to be putting up the shield right back, and then just look at it take the KO with the Crunch. So far, my Mightyena still has a decent amount of HP on it, so if they bring in something, hopefully I can get to a move. It's going to be Goodra. Oh, I just can't get to the Poison Fang, as the Dragon Breath damage is just a bit too much. In comes Dedenne, in the back is Quagsire, and this is going to be a bit of a tricky endgame when it comes to baits and nukes in this Battle of Mud Boys. Because if I'm able to bait with a Body Slam and then land a Water Pulse, I feel like I'm in a pretty okay spot, but if they call a Body Slam, I'm in trouble. To me, that feels too risky, so I farm up to the back-to-back Body Slams, and I'm full sending. Water Pulse is gonna land, opponent tries to call the bait, in comes Goodra, but the Gastrodon is too bulky, it hangs on. This Body Slam is gonna land, and that's gonna put them into Parabolic Charge range. I shield, knowing that I can immediately click Parabolic Charge, and put the game out of reach for my opponent. As normally, if they land enough Aqua Tails, they can win, but once I boost my defense, there's nothing they can do, so they will no shield, and I 5-0 to 29.99 elo. I haven't had this happen since Season 3, but unfortunately, we get 29.99, and I'm gonna have to play more games. Hopping into the next match, leading Mightyena into Shadow Scizor. This is a dominant lead for Mightyena. As look at the fast moves here. Mightyena just farms through Shadow Scizor. I'm going to put up the shield as they go for the Trailblaze and just look for a full farm down. Mightyena exits pretty low on health, but I do exit with quite a lot of energy. In comes the Azumarill. Azumarill gonna be no shield in the Poison Fang, but Mightyena getting to another Poison Fang. Their defense has already been debuffed. That pressures a shield. Now they're at -2, and I can bring out Dedenne. I never have to shield Dedenne here because I know that I can survive any one move. So I click no shield with Dedenne, it ends up being an Ice Beam bait, and my guess is they were double water in the back, double weak to Dedenne, and they will resign the match. We see a very tricky lead in the next match. Shadow MIGHTYENA into Unova Stunfisk. Obviously, Stunfisk has extremely polarizing matchups in the back. It absolutely deletes Dedenne, but Gastrodon absolutely deletes Stunfisk. Now, MIGHTYENA typically has to go down a shield if it wants to win this matchup, because MIGHTYENA has great fast move pressure, but Stunfisk is incredibly bulky. I do get another crunch debuff, so the crunch debuffs were absolutely with me today. That crunch debuff is not going to matter a lot, as out comes a Fearow. And this is actually very, very tricky, because Fearow has access to Drill Run, and Drill Run will inflict big, super effective damage onto Dedenne. I know that I need to buff up Dedenne, so I go for the Parabolic Charge immediately. I get Parabolic number 2, and unfortunately, I lose Charge Attack priority. That is really unfortunate. Drill Run lands, but Dedenne is able to survive. Dedenne returns fire with the Parabolic Charge, takes the knockout, and in the back, they have Corviknight. I think maybe I should have stayed in that matchup since I was boosted, but I aggressively pivot out. I go for the Crunch, and they end up shielding. I debated whether to Poison Fang bait. To me, it felt too risky. And unfortunately, they end up shielding the nuke. And now I am in trouble. Because Gastrodon can't really slap this into Water Pulse range. Normally, if I could just get to 2 Water Pulses, I'd be okay, but they have an energy advantage, so I'm going to get outpaced. That's going to be the payback. I'm going to need to get really fancy if I want to try and take home this win. Water Pulse is going to connect. That's big damage. I'm going to farm up 2, wait some turns, go for the catch. I do not get the catch, and they survive on 1 HP, and they're going to be able to take that win. Oh, that's a tough one. A very negative team comp, but did what I could. Great lead in the next match, MIGHTYENA into Scizor. This Scizor is just going to go straight for the Night Slash, but I'm still going to shield because I know that I want switch advantage. So MIGHTYENA is going to get the farm down. Out comes Bastiodon, and oh boy, do I have a Pokemon for this in the back. Crunch is going to land. I will make one final Crunch as well. So this damage into the Bastiodon doesn't really matter nearly as much as just having switch advantage. In comes Gastrodon. They send out a Azumarill. I have the Dedenne, and that's kind of how the team works. We see a very tough lead in the next match. Shadow MIGHTYENA into Clodsire. Now, Clodsire, again, another one of these matchups where I have a very polarizingly bad matchup and a very polarizingly good matchup in the back. I'm typically going to have to go down shields with the MIGHTYENA to get rid of this Pokemon. My opponent wisely goes for the Sludge Bomb bait, realizing that if I'm leading a MIGHTYENA, I'm probably playing for alignment. We get another Crunch debuff. I was very fortunate with the Crunch debuffs today. Sludge Bomb lands, opponent safe switches into Meowscarada, and I instantly lose the game. This team is triple weak to Meowscarada. If you see Meowscarada, you just kind of have to be at peace with the fact that you're going to get 1v3'd. Meowscarada, it's not the most common Pokemon, but it wins Charge Attack priority against everything on this team, and everything on this team is weak to it. I have no fast move pressure into Meowscarada, so at this point, unfortunately, I'm just getting swept by a Meowscarada. Frenzy Plant lands, devastating damage, and all I can do is hope for a Hail Mary catch, but it's probably not going to happen. So I'm going to throw 3, wait, and my opponent, they are very patient. And now I'm just going to not even top left. Well done, Meowscarada, full sweep. We do get KO'd, and we will lose that game. Oh, we've got a Battle of Spice in the next match. Shadow MIGHTYENA into Avalugg. Now, the only Avalugg team that's going around is the Blissfully team that has Galarian Corsola and Gastrodon in the back. So switch advantage will actually be pretty big. I go for the Crunch. I get another debuff. Watching this back, I am just now realizing how many Crunch debuffs this MIGHTYENA got. MIGHTYENA was consistently putting the team on its back with these Crunch debuffs. Oh my goodness. Crunch lands, picks up the KO. In comes Gastrodon, and arguably, I make a bit of a misplay. Now this could lose me the game if my opponent sends in the Galarian Corsola, but I'm banking on the fact that they don't want to do that. So it's a very risky play to give up switch, but I think it could potentially pay off. Oh, that's not a Corsola. That's a Dusclops in the back. So my opponent does have a move banked. It's a Body Slam banked on their Gastrodon for later, and I bring out Dedenne. They have a ton of energy. If this is one of those Poltergeist Dusclops that's been going around, I'm going to lose on the spot. But thankfully, it's not. They are only on Shadow Punch. And now, after taking not a lot of damage, I can boost up my defense with Parabolic. My opponent does have so much energy. They should even get to a third Shadow Punch before I'm able to get a move. Here, if I shield, they're guaranteed to combo play me. So what I do is I just undertap the Parabolic, and they try for it. They try to snipe with a Body Slam, but I'm able to say no, and now I aggressively switch into MIGHTYENA. If they throw a move, they lose. Their only win con is to try and farm down, but Shadow MIGHTYENA says no and takes the win. We get the dream lead in the next match, leading into Dust Noir. Opponent safe switches into Empoleon, and Empoleon will immediately get answered with Gastrodon. Empoleon is honestly an incredibly difficult safe switch for basically any team to deal with, as Empoleon is so good at pressuring shields from things. Luckily, Gastrodon is one of the few Pokemon that doesn't have to give up a shield, but Gastrodon still has to throw all of its energy. My opponent just does not get the farm down. Watching these battles back, having high ranks on all of these Pokemon ended up paying off in quite a few games. My opponent now has a Shadow Punch plus a Dynamic Punch, so if they bait me, they can get the nuke. But to me, that feels very okay, because I'm guaranteed to get a Poison Fang on whatever's in back. In the back, oh no, it's a Shadow Murkrow. Poison Fang will debuff them, in comes Dedenne, and unfortunately there's just no play, and my opponent will resign the match. We move to the next game, picking up a pretty decent lead for MIGHTYENA, leading into Talonflame. I believe the MIGHTYENA Shadow Talonflame matchup is better, so I actually want to correct myself that I think the regular Talonflame matchup is actually worse. So Talonflame will end up shielding the Poison Fang, which is really nice, and it looks like I can go for the one shield farm down. This way I'm going to exit with quite a lot of energy. So I shield up the fly, get the farm down, but no, they live on 1 HP, and that is a huge error. Failing that farm down is a colossal error on my part, as now I'm down shields. The good news is the switch advantage will still be good for me, because they have a Furret in the back. I go for the Poison Fang, hoping for a second Poison Fang, but I cannot get there. I send in Dedenne, in the back is Gastrodon, and unfortunately this game is going to be a loss. If I had even shields, I would be fine, but unfortunately, my greed ended up backfiring. I wanted to exit with a move, and I will go for the last second Body Slam bait, but there's just no way forward. They can just click Body Slam and KO me. But my opponent is actually the one who gets greedy. Now they try for a farm down they do not get. The Water Pulse KOs, and we're actually going to survive this game. I had completely written off this game as a loss, but then my opponent tries to farm down. They do not get that farm down. The rank 1 Gastrodon paying dividends. I get the player off because it does more damage to guarantee the knockout, and we take the win. Hopping into the final match, and what a lead. Shadow MIGHTYENA into Shadow Giratina. Opponent safe switches into Blastoise. I have a great response available with Dedenne. So I bank a little bit of energy, send out Dedenne, but a worry is that if it's the team that I feature that has Florges in the back, then Florges could be a pretty big issue once Dedenne is out of the way. Parabolic Charge barely does not knock out, but I will need to, at some point, aggressively pivot into the MIGHTYENA to try and get up energy and threaten this Florges with Poison Fangs. So I do just that. In comes MIGHTYENA, and I'm just never going to throw my energy. I'm holding the energy until I see the Florges. Ancient Power is going to be shielded, but does get the boost. I'm double shielding. I just have to fully commit to the farm. Another Ancient Power, another shield. That's not Florges, but that is a win. It's Shadow Scizor in the back. Crunch gets the shield. MIGHTYENA gets to Crunch number 2, and Scizor will not be surviving. Crunch lands, down goes Scizor, in comes Giratina, and that is a good game. All in all, I had an absolute blast getting to run this team. This team is not like the usual ABC teams that I like to run, but after seeing some Japanese battlers have success with the Shadow MIGHTYENA XAB style strategy, I wanted to test it out and see how it would perform. I was expecting it to end up being more of a video for fun, but then after a few 2-3, 3-2 sets, I ended up going 10-0 up to 30-59 elo. So the team can be a little bit hit or miss, but when it's on, it is really on. My goodness. 10-0 against some pretty elite competition, and a lot of the games felt very straightforward. So to me, this is a pretty plug and play, pretty easy to use team. Obviously, now that a strategy like this has been publicized, people could just start running things on the lead that beat MIGHTYENA, as that would be the team's biggest weakness. Like leading into something like a Florges would be very, very difficult for this team, as realistically, the main save switch would be a Gastrodon, but that also loses to Trailblaze Florges. So I don't know what the shelf life of this team is going to be, but it absolutely dominated today and made for some incredibly fun sets. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not. And a special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys, it was very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.